Imagine standing in the vast, quiet expanse of the Texas desert. The morning air is still, carrying only the faint whisper of the wind. Before you stands a monument to human ambition, a gleaming white rocket pointing toward the infinite sky. It promises a gentle journey to the edge of space, a safe return, and a step closer to the stars. But space, my friends, is never truly safe. In a heartbeat, the pristine silence is shattered. A flash of light, a sudden violent bloom of fire against the blue canvas. The rocket falters, the capsule tears itself away, and then a profound and heavy silence falls over the control room. Blue Origin's new Shepard has experienced a catastrophic anomaly. The official statements tell us one story. They speak of safety systems working flawlessly. They speak of payloads saved. But what if the reality is far more complex? What if the truth hidden in that fiery cloud is worse than they are letting on? Close your eyes for a moment. Let the noise of the world fade away. Today, we are going to travel into the heart of that explosion. We will slow down time. We will read the invisible data, and we will uncover the quiet truth behind the roar of the engines. To understand the weight of this moment, we must first look back. For years, the new Shepard program was hailed as a paragon of reliability. It was the steady, unblinking eye of the space tourism industry. Designed by Blue Origin, it was built on a philosophy of methodical testing and cautious progress. The goal was simple, yet breathtakingly difficult: to make access to space as routine as commercial aviation. The rocket was powered by the BE-3 engine, a marvel of modern engineering that drinks liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, producing a clean, almost invisible exhaust. It had flown successfully dozens of times. It had carried human beings, science experiments, and the dreams of a new era. It created an illusion, a beautiful mirage that leaving Earth was becoming easy. But we often forget that a rocket is, by definition, a controlled explosion. It is millions of parts, working in fragile harmony, fighting gravity, fighting the atmosphere, and fighting the chaotic nature of chemistry itself. When you strap yourself to a tower of cryogenic fuel, you are making a silent pact with the laws of physics, and sometimes physics demands a heavy toll. The calm before the storm. Let us begin our journey at T-0. The countdown reaches its final syllable. The launch pad is bathed in the golden light of the morning sun. Deep within the base of the rocket, valves open. Cryogenic fluids, chillingly cold, rush into the combustion chamber. A spark ignites them. Instantly, an inferno is born. The BE-3 engine roars to life, pushing against the Earth with over 100,000 pounds of thrust. The rocket rises. It is a majestic sight, a pillar of fire lifting a silver needle into the heavens. To the untrained eye, everything is perfect. But within the wires and sensors, a different story is beginning to unfold. A story written in fractions of a second. The invisible ascent. As the rocket climbs, the air around it grows thin. The sky shifts from pale blue to a deepening violet. Inside the vehicle, there are no humans on this particular flight, only scientific payloads. But imagine for a moment you are inside. You would feel the immense pressure, the heavy hand of gravity pushing you down into your seat. The telemetry data streams down to Earth in a continuous, invisible river. Pressure, temperature, velocity. The engineers watch the screens, lulled into a sense of security by the familiarity of the numbers. It is a routine flight, or so it seems. We often debunk the myth that automation makes spaceflight foolproof. Automation is only as flawless as the humans who programmed it. Max Q, the moment of truth. The rocket reaches a critical point known as maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is the moment when the mechanical stress on the vehicle is at its absolute peak. The dense lower atmosphere pushes against the accelerating rocket like a physical wall. Every bolt, every weld, every panel groans under the strain. It is a crucible of engineering. Historically, this is where hidden flaws reveal themselves. If there is a weakness, if there is a tiny imperfection in the metal, this is the moment the atmosphere will find it. The rocket pushes through, fighting the invisible ocean of air. The data still looks green. The illusion holds. The first whisper of failure. But suddenly, something shifts. It is not a loud alarm. It is a subtle change, a tiny deviation in the telemetry. A temperature reading spikes. A pressure sensor dips. It is a whisper of chaos in a symphony of order. Down on the ground, the computers notice it first. The algorithms, designed to protect the vehicle, begin to analyze the anomaly. What is happening inside the engine compartment? The human controllers are still unaware. The delay between the machine knowing and the human realizing is a quiet, terrifying gap. It is in this fraction of a second that the fate of the mission is sealed. The visual betrayal. Now look at the exhaust plume. For the first minute of flight, it was a perfectly shaped, glowing sword of fire. But suddenly, the shape changes. It widens. It flickers. The clean burn of liquid hydrogen is disrupted by something else. Perhaps it is burning metal. Perhaps it is uncombusted fuel escaping through a breach. The color shifts from an ethereal blue to an angry, bright orange. This is the universe telling us that the harmony has been broken. The controlled explosion is losing its control. The engine is consuming itself. It is a vivid example of how quickly technology can revert to raw, untamed nature. The silent bloom of destruction. High above the Earth, where the air is too thin to carry the sound of a roar, the engine fails completely. The bottom of the rocket erupts in a violent cloud of expanding gas and fire. It is a beautiful, terrifying blossom against the darkness of the upper atmosphere. The booster, the sturdy workhorse that was meant to return home, is fatally wounded. It loses its thrust. It loses its guidance. It becomes nothing more than a falling piece of debris. The silence of space embraces the chaos. The illusion of a gentle ride is shattered into 1,000 burning pieces. The brilliant escape. But the story does not end with the explosion. In the very millisecond the booster begins to tear itself apart, the rocket's brain makes a critical decision. It senses the sudden loss of acceleration. It senses the catastrophic failure. Instantly, it triggers the launch abort system. A solid rocket motor, hidden within the base of the passenger capsule, ignites with brutal force. It is a tiny, violent explosion designed to save the capsule from a much larger one. The capsule is ripped away from the dying booster, accelerating away from the fireball at a staggering speed. It is a masterpiece of survival engineering. A dance of contrasts. Imagine the scene suspended in time. Below, the massive booster is tumbling, bleeding fire and smoke, a heavy giant defeated by its own power. Above, the small, sleek capsule darts away into the clear sky, riding a pillar of brilliant white smoke. It is a profound contrast. Life against death. Preservation against destruction. The automated systems did exactly what they were designed to do. They saved the payload. They would have saved human passengers, but this victory hides a deeper, darker question. Why did the giant fall in the first place? The long descent. The capsule, now safe from the inferno, reaches the peak of its trajectory. For a fleeting moment, it experiences the weightlessness of space. The quiet returns. Then, gravity reclaims its hold. The capsule begins to fall back toward the Earth. High above the desert, small pilot chutes deploy, pulling out the massive main canopies. 3 beautiful, enormous parachutes blossom in the sky. They catch the wind, slowing the descent. The capsule drifts down gently, a solitary survivor returning from a battlefield. It touches the desert floor, throwing up a cloud of soft dust. It is over. but the investigation has just begun. The aftermath on the ground. Down below, the remains of the booster rain down upon the Texas scrubland. Pieces of twisted metal, scorched composite materials, and shattered engines scatter across the isolated terrain. The ground crews mobilize. The area is secured. The excitement of a launch is replaced by the grim reality of a crash site. The engineers who built this machine, who knew every wire and valve by heart, must now look at its broken remains. It is a heartbreaking moment. The physical wreckage is a mirror of the shattered confidence. The silence in the control room stretches on, heavy and uncomfortable. The official narrative. Soon after, the PR machine awakens. Statements are released. They are carefully worded, polished to a dull shine. They emphasize the success of the escape system. They praise the safety protocols. They tell us that the system worked exactly as intended, that no one was hurt, that the payloads are safe. And this is true, but it is not the whole truth. It is a narrative designed to soothe, to reassure investors, to calm future tourists. It is a beautiful mask placed over a scarred face. Let us peek behind that mask. Let us ask the questions they are not answering. Reading between the lines. When an aerospace company says anomaly, they mean a catastrophic failure. When they say the escape system functioned nominally, they are distracting you from the fact that the primary vehicle blew up. We must debunk the myth that surviving an explosion makes the system perfect. The true measure of reliability is not surviving an explosion. It is preventing the explosion entirely. An abort is a last resort, a desperate measure. It means something went terribly, fundamentally wrong. And finding out what went wrong is the hardest part of the journey. The heart of the machine. Let us delve into the BE-3 engine itself. This is the beating heart of New Shepard. It is an intricate maze of turbopumps, combustion chambers, and regenerative cooling channels. The temperatures inside this engine are higher than the melting point of the metals it is made of. How does it survive? It survives by pumping super-cold liquid hydrogen through tiny channels in the engine bell, cooling the metal before the fuel is burned. It is a delicate, continuous balancing act. If a single channel clogs, if a single pump hesitates, the balance is lost. The engine melts. The engine explodes. The anatomy of failure. Imagine a tiny crack, invisible to the naked eye, forming deep within a turbine blade. As the engine roars, the crack grows. It is a microscopic seed of destruction. The extreme heat and pressure feed it. Suddenly, the blade snaps. It is thrown through the engine at supersonic speeds, shattering other components. Shrapnel pierces the cooling channels. The supercold fuel mixes with the superheated exhaust in the wrong place. The pressure spikes instantly. The metal containment vessel yields. This is not a gradual process. It happens in milliseconds. It is the violent reality of chemical propulsion. The hidden data. The true story of the explosion is locked inside terabytes of telemetry data. For months, engineers will pore over this data. They will look at the exact microsecond a sensor failed. They will trace the cascade of errors backward in time, looking for the root cause. It is like trying to reconstruct a shattered vase from dust. They will look at the vibrations, the acoustic signatures, the thermal maps. The truth is there, hidden in the numbers. But finding it requires patience, immense processing power, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about their own design. The impact on the dream. What does this mean for the dream of space tourism? For years, companies have sold the idea that going to space is like going to an amusement park. You buy a ticket, you strap in, you enjoy the view. But this explosion shatters that illusion. It reminds us that astronauts are not tourists. They are explorers taking a calculated risk. For every person dreaming of looking out that large window at the curvature of the Earth, there is now a shadow of doubt. The psychological barrier has grown taller. The ticket to the stars suddenly feels heavier. The silence of the competitors. Across the industry, other aerospace companies are watching. SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, they observe the failure in silence. There is no gloating, for they know the dark secret of this industry. Rockets are hard, and space is unforgiving. Today it is Blue Origin's rocket scattering across the desert. Tomorrow it could be theirs. They share an unspoken bond, a mutual respect for the terrifying physics they all try to master. They will study this failure. They will learn from it, because a failure for one is a lesson for all. The regulatory gaze. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, steps in. They are the guardians of the sky. When a rocket explodes, they ground the fleet. They demand answers. The investigation is not just internal, it is a matter of public safety. Blue Origin cannot fly again until they prove they have found the problem and fixed it. This process is slow. It is methodical. It is frustrating for those who want to fly. But it is necessary. The sky must remain safe. The rules of spaceflight are written in the ashes of failures. The weight of the payloads. On this flight, there were no humans, but there were dozens of scientific experiments. Years of research, delicate instruments designed by students and scientists, all subjected to the violent forces of an abort. While the capsule landed safely, the extreme G-forces of the escape maneuver may have damaged the delicate cargo. An abort is not a gentle ride, it is a violent kick. The science is interrupted, the progress is delayed. The explosion echoes through laboratories and classrooms around the world. A history of fire. This is not the first time a rocket has failed, and it will not be the last. The history of space exploration is paved with explosions. From the early Vanguard rockets falling back to the pad to the tragic losses of the space shuttle, we have always learned the hard way. Each failure teaches us something new about materials, about fluid dynamics, about the limits of human engineering. We must view this explosion not as an end, but as a painful, fiery stepping stone on the path to the stars. The paradox of safety. Here is a fascinating paradox. Failures ultimately make systems safer. If a rocket flies perfectly every time, we might build a false sense of security. We might ignore minor anomalies. But when a rocket explodes, it forces a complete re-evaluation. Every assumption is questioned. Every bolt is checked. The vehicle that eventually returns to flight will be stronger, smarter, and more resilient than the one that was lost. The fire purifies the design. It is a harsh truth, but a necessary one for our journey into the cosmos. The burden of the engineers. Imagine the heavy hearts of the people who built this rocket. For them, it is not just a machine, it is a piece of their soul. They spent years designing it, testing it, loving it. To watch it tear itself apart on live television is a profound heartbreak. But they do not give up. They return to their desks, they open the data files, they wipe away the frustration and begin the slow work of finding the truth. Their resilience is the true engine of human progress. They are the quiet heroes of the space age. The deeper problem. But let us return to the title of our journey. Why is it worse than they are saying? Because this failure hints at a systemic issue. It suggests that the safety margins we thought we had might be thinner than we realized. If a mature, proven engine can suddenly consume itself, what other hidden flaws are waiting to awaken? The silence from the company is not just a PR strategy. It is a sign of deep internal uncertainty. They are quiet because, for a moment, they do not know the answer. And the unknown is the most terrifying thing in spaceflight. The illusion of the edge of space. We must also reconsider the very nature of these suborbital flights. They take passengers to the Kármán line, the edge of space, for a few minutes of weightlessness. It is a beautiful experience, but is it worth the immense risk? The explosion reminds us of the massive energy required just to touch the void. It forces us to ask philosophical questions. Why do we go? Are we seeking scientific knowledge or simply the ultimate thrill ride? The fire in the sky demands that our reasons be profound. The indifference of the cosmos. As we analyze the wreckage and debate the future, the cosmos above remains entirely indifferent. The stars do not care that our metal tubes have failed. The vacuum of space is cold, empty, and perfectly silent. It does not invite us, and it does not reject us. It simply exists. We are the ones trying to force our way in, using fire and noise. This explosion is a humbling reminder of our true size. We are tiny creatures, playing with dangerous forces, trying to touch the face of eternity. The future of the program. What happens to New Shepard now? It will remain grounded for months, perhaps longer. The engineers will dissect the failure. They will redesign the faulty components. Eventually, they will place another rocket on the pad. The countdown will begin again. But the innocence is gone. Every future launch will carry the ghost of this explosion. The passengers will sit in their seats, listening to the countdown, and they will remember the day the sky caught fire. The ride will never be truly routine again. The changing landscape. This event also shifts the balance of power in the new space race. While Blue Origin pauses to heal, others push forward. The window of opportunity is always moving. In the grand theatre of space exploration, hesitation can mean obsolescence. The pressure to return to flight will be immense, but they must resist the urge to rush. Because if they fly too soon and fail again, the dream might be grounded forever. Patience is the hardest virtue in a race to the stars. The echo of the abort. Let us think back to that brilliant escape, the capsule darting away. It is a symbol of our human instinct to survive. We build machines to explore the dangerous unknown, but we also build machines to protect us from our own creations. It is a beautiful, tragic loop. We create the fire, and we create the shield against the fire. The true success of that day was not the rocket, but the relentless human desire to bring the crew home safely, even when the crew was just a collection of sensors. The final pieces of the puzzle. Slowly, the investigation will conclude. The root cause will be published. It will likely be something incredibly small. A faulty valve seal, a microscopic impurity in the metal, a slight miscalibration of a sensor. It is always the small things that bring down the giants. It reminds us of the delicate fragility of our technology. We build towering monuments of steel, but they are entirely dependent on the perfection of the tiniest screw. It is a poetic reminder of the interconnectedness of all things. The endless pursuit. We look back at the empty launch pad. The wind sweeps across the Texas desert, blowing the dust over the burn marks. The sky is clear again. The explosion is a memory, a lesson etched in data and twisted metal. But the dream remains. We will build new rockets. We will light new fires. We will fail again, and we will learn again. Because looking up at the stars, we cannot help but want to touch them. The silence of space is calling, and despite the risks, we will always answer. And so, the fire fades, and the dust settles. We have journeyed through the microseconds of disaster, peeled back the layers of corporate silence, and stared into the unforgiving reality of rocket science. The explosion of Blue Origin's New Shepard is not just a footnote in the news. It is a profound reminder that space is not a playground. It is a hostile, silent frontier that demands absolute perfection from those who dare to cross its borders. The hidden truth is not a conspiracy, but a humbling reality. Our mastery over nature is an illusion held together by mathematics, engineering, and hope. We are still pioneers, and pioneers sometimes face the fire. Thank you for taking this quiet, deep journey with me today, for looking beyond the headlines and exploring the beautiful, terrifying mechanics of human ambition. As we close our eyes and think of that empty sky, I want to ask you, knowing the immense risks and the fragile margins of error, would you still strap yourself into a rocket to see the curve of the Earth? Share your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, keep dreaming of the stars, but never forget the fire it takes to reach them.